One evening, as Mark was sitting on his couch watching TV, he heard a knock at the door. It was odd because he wasn't expecting anyone. Curiously, he got up and opened the door to find a small brown package on his doorstep. There was no one around, and the package had no return address. Mark picked up the package, feeling its weight. It was surprisingly heavy for its size. He took it inside, set it on the kitchen table, and stared at it for a moment. Who could have sent this? And why? After a few minutes of hesitation, Mark decided to open it. He carefully cut the tape and lifted the lid. Inside, there was a small wooden box with a lock on it. A note was attached, and it read, "Find the key where the sun sets." Mark was puzzled. What could this mean? He sat down and thought about it. Where the sun sets? He whispered to himself. Suddenly, he realized the note might be referring to the old park near his house. It had a beautiful sunset view over the lake. Determined to solve the mystery, Mark grabbed his coat and headed to the park. The sun was just beginning to set as he arrived, casting an orange glow over the water. He walked to the spot where he and his friends used to watch the sunset, searching for anything unusual. As he looked around, Mark noticed something shiny under a bench. He bent down and picked up a small, old-fashioned key. His heart raced. Could this be the key to the box? Excited, he rushed back home and inserted the key into the lock on the wooden box. It fit perfectly. Mark turned the key, and with a soft click, the box opened. Inside, there was a single folded letter. With trembling hands, Mark unfolded it. The letter was from his grandfather, who had passed away years ago. It read, "For when you're ready to remember the adventures we shared." Tears welled up in Mark's eyes as memories of his childhood adventures with his grandfather flooded back. The package wasn't just a mystery, it was a gift, a reminder of the special bond they once had. Sophia was rushing through the busy city streets, trying to make it to her job interview on time. She was nervous and kept checking her phone for directions. The tall buildings around her made it hard to get her bearings, but she finally spotted the office building in the distance. As she approached the entrance, a sudden gust of wind blew, and something slipped from her bag. It was her wallet. Without noticing, she hurried inside, thinking only about making a good impression at the interview. A few minutes later, Lucas, a young man walking by, noticed the wallet on the ground. He picked it up and looked around to see if anyone had dropped it, but the street was crowded, and no one seemed to be looking for it. Lucas opened the wallet, hoping to find some contact information. Inside, he found Sophia's ID, credit cards, and some cash, but no phone number. Lucas decided to wait near the office building, hoping the owner would come back looking for it. He stood by the door, watching people come and go, but after 10 minutes, there was still no sign of anyone searching for a wallet. He felt a bit unsure about what to do, but he knew he had to try to return it. Inside, Sophia was sitting nervously in the waiting room, her heart racing before the interview. She reached for her wallet to double-check her papers, but her heart sank when she realized it was gone. Panic washed over her as she tried to remember where she might have lost it. She was about to leave the building to search for it when her name was called for the interview. Sophia took a deep breath, pushed her worries aside, and went in for the interview. She answered the questions confidently, but in the back of her mind, she was still thinking about her wallet. After the interview, she rushed outside, frantically looking around for any sign of it. To her surprise, Lucas was still standing there, holding the wallet. "Excuse me," Sophia said, running up to him. "Did you find a wallet?" Lucas smiled and handed it to her. "I did. I've been waiting here, hoping someone would come for it." Sophia's face lit up with relief and gratitude. "Thank you so much. I didn't even realize I dropped it." "No problem," Lucas said. "I'm just glad I could help." With her wallet back in her hands, Sophia felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She thanked Lucas again before heading home, feeling lucky that someone honest had found her wallet. One sunny afternoon, Maya was sitting in her living room when she noticed a moving truck pull up next door. A new neighbor was moving in. Curious, she watched as a young man, about her age, stepped out of the truck and started directing the movers. He seemed friendly, smiling, and chatting with the movers as they carried boxes into the house. Maya decided to go over and introduce herself. She grabbed a plate of freshly baked cookies, hoping it would be a good way to break the ice. When she stepped outside, the new neighbor was standing on the lawn, wiping sweat from his forehead after moving a heavy box. "Hi there," Maya called out. "I'm Maya. Welcome to the neighborhood." The man turned around, looking pleasantly surprised. "Oh, hi. I'm Ryan. Thanks. It's nice to meet you." Maya handed him the plate of cookies. "I thought you might like a snack after all that hard work." Ryan laughed. "Wow, thanks. These look amazing." "You didn't have to do that, but I really appreciate it." They chatted for a few minutes about the neighborhood, local shops, and restaurants. Ryan mentioned that he had just moved to the city for a new job and didn't know many people yet. Maya could tell he was excited but also a little nervous about settling in. "Well, if you ever need anything, feel free to knock on my door," Maya said warmly. "This is a great area, and I'm sure you'll love it here." "That means a lot," Ryan replied. "I might take you up on that." A few days later, Maya was working in her garden when she heard a knock at her door. It was Ryan, looking a little embarrassed but smiling. "Hey, Maya," he said. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I was wondering if you had a hammer I could borrow. I'm trying to hang some pictures, and I can't seem to find mine." Maya smiled. "Of course. Come on in, I'll grab it for you." She found the hammer and handed it to Ryan. "Feel free to keep it as long as you need, thanks so much." "I'll bring it back soon, I promise," Ryan said gratefully. Over the next few weeks, Maya and Ryan ran into each other more often, whether it was grabbing coffee at the local cafe or bumping into each other at the grocery store. Each time, they'd stop and chat for a while, and soon they became good friends. They started hanging out on weekends, exploring the city together, and getting to know more of their neighbors. Maya never expected that introducing herself to a new neighbor would lead to such a close friendship, but she was glad she had. Sometimes, it only takes a simple act of kindness to make someone feel at home. It was a rainy afternoon, and Emma hurried down the street, her hands clutching the hood of her jacket tightly against the wind. She had forgotten her umbrella at home and was now regretting it as the rain soaked through her clothes. She had just finished her shift at the bookstore and was rushing to catch the bus. As she reached the bus stop, she saw a young boy sitting on the bench, completely dry under a large blue umbrella. The boy was quietly reading a book, seemingly unbothered by the heavy rain. Emma sighed, wishing she had been as prepared as he was. She stood beside the bench, glancing nervously at the sky as the rain intensified. After a few minutes, the boy looked up from his book and noticed Emma standing there, drenched. Without a word, he scooted over on the bench and lifted his umbrella to cover her as well. "Here, you can share my umbrella," the boy said, smiling up at her. Emma was surprised but grateful. "Thank you. That's really kind of you," she said, sitting down beside him. They sat together in comfortable silence for a few moments, the only sound being the steady patter of rain against the umbrella. Eventually, Emma glanced at the boy's book and noticed it was a novel she had recommended to a customer at the bookstore earlier that day. "Hey, I know that book," Emma exclaimed. "I work at the bookstore down the street, and I recommended that book to someone today." The boy smiled shyly. "Yeah, my mom bought it for me this morning. I've only read a few pages, but I like it so far," Emma smiled. "I'm glad. It's one of my favorites. What do you think of the characters?" They spent the next several minutes talking about the book, with Emma giving her thoughts on the story and the boy excitedly sharing his first impressions. The rain continued to fall, but under the umbrella, they were both warm and dry, caught up in their conversation. When the bus finally arrived, Emma and the boy stood up. "Thanks again for sharing your umbrella," Emma said, stepping onto the bus. "I hope you enjoy the rest of the book." The boy waved as the bus doors closed. I will. Have a great day. As Emma took her seat on the bus, she smiled to herself. Despite the rain and her forgotten umbrella, the day had turned out better than she expected. Sometimes, even a small act of kindness can brighten a gloomy day.